You've had to fight your way through the qualifiers. You've had to go through, you know, all the round of whatever it was, 154 teams, so a round of 160 you've had to come from through quarterfinals, semi-finals, into where we find ourselves now, Dan. But that's all in history now. This is what matters. There's 20 teams in this lobby, but only 5 spots available for our last chance qualifier to make it to that playoffs. And that's going to be hanging over and deep in the thought of every single team and every single player in this game.
Yeah, I mean, everything kind of goes out the window that you're used to with going into tournaments and like having that time to kind of prepare, etc. You want to get out of the blocks early in the LCQ. Give yourself that confidence, give yourself the momentum, scare the rest of the lobby. Otherwise, people are going to be saying, well, I don't mind if we're dropping with this team. Oh, I don't care if we're rotating through this team because we can win a fight against them. If you win that first fight against another team, instantly you're going to strike fear into their eyes. They are going to want to avoid you. You're going to assert your dominance nice and early. And then for the rest of the tournament, you can just be easy, free in your own location, get all the drop you need, and hope that the circle comes your way.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing. A lot of teams going to be hoping for a nice, friendly, early circle. We're going to get straight into the game, though. You can see the dropship going from west to east, straight through the middle of World's Edge, and that's going to be good news for quite a lot of these teams, meaning they're going to be pretty comfortable on their drop. However, speaking of being comfortable on drop, it's not going to be very comfortable for one of our teams, as we are going to see them eliminated almost immediately, and unfortunately, it looked like Shiv was one of those players who was taken down, but he's going to be able to be rezzed, you would imagine, here, as it's going to be SOLOQGOATS who come out best here in their first battle of the day.
Yeah, the SOLOQGOATS, one of the teams that we are definitely going to be keeping an eye on throughout this. They are not your traditional esports team. They are kind of more streamers that have kind of gone together, qualified for this LCQ, and there is no reason why they can't get to playoffs with how they've been performing. Running Bangalore as well, something that we don't really see in the ALGS, so I'm so happy to see a little bit of difference in composition. But you're right, there was a contestant in drop early on, as we would expect in Game 1. There are going to be a couple of teams going out early. We're already down to 18 squads, so 2 teams already been eliminated. As we move over and we can see Elite Gaming RSA just having a little loot in this situation. They did back away from that fight. I think they were near Shiv's team there, but they didn't fancy taking it.
Well, just a reminder to everyone who's watching right now, the LCQs, there's no prize money here. It's all about the ALGS points, so it's all about qualifying for the playoffs where that major prize money is going to be up for grabs. So no lining of the pockets here, but glory just around the corner if you can make it to those playoffs in just a few weeks' time. But Gambit Esports here, going to be dropping over at Sorting Factory, one of the teams that I'm most excited to watch today. Hardeki, Leogri, and Artico. Such a well-established lineup now in the ALGS, and I expect them to do big things.
Yeah, even though there is no prize money, even though there is no ALGS points, it's just getting to those playoffs. It's a lot about pride for some of these teams. Like, they've been playing for prize money, they've been playing for ALGS points previously in the online 4 tournaments that we've had coming up to this point, and they haven't been able to get to those playoffs. So now it's just about getting over that final hurdle, showing that they are part of the top 20 best teams in their super region, or their region if we're looking at North America. And for some of these teams, it's been quite a frustrating, long experience for them. You look at some teams that have finished like 3rd, 4th, 5th in these online tournaments, but they didn't get enough ALGS points to just qualify through that way, so they have to get through on this LCQ. Team like Lazarus, for example, that we've been seeing consistently throughout these ALGS tournaments, they still haven't got to those playoffs, so I'm expecting to see them show up today and show us what they can do.
Well, speaking of showing up, it'd be good to see where this circle is. You can see it's going to be pretty central at the moment. A lot of teams actually making their way over to the train yard area of World's Edge. And that's very interesting for me, because like I previously mentioned before we got this game underway, Fragment was pretty much open as far as a drop spot was concerned. So that's going to be pretty good for teams rotating. But as you can see from the beacon that's being brought up by a wonderful observing team, train yard is going to be hotly contested by those teams who do have one of those legends who can hit that beacon and give them that information. So as I said, Fragment, if you took that chance, you took that risk and thinking you're going to be laying claim to that area, you would have a quick, easy rotation into where we are now.
Yeah, Obey Alliance, who kind of dropped in the Lava City area, have been able to transition already over to kind of central circle here. So they've done very well to rotate through the map. Other teams that are going to be pretty happy with how this one's looking, Magicians usually drop around train yard, so if they are still alive and they weren't that 19th team that we saw eliminated, I'm sure they're in a position where they can set up for this circle as well. And also the teams down at Thermal, potentially teams like Underrated, No Name, have been known to drop down in location, so I'm sure they'll be in a somewhat comfortable spot at this point as well. Dead Inside, a team that you were talking about earlier about the free drop spots that's potentially available with Fragment maybe not being taken by the likes of Na'Vi and Cooler. Dead Inside are a team who have been known to drop Fragment East, so potentially they have the whole of Fragment to themselves if no one else is dropping there and taking one of those spots from Na'Vi and Cooler, but I'm sure that isn't the case. I'm sure someone would have been wise to it, and someone's probably going to be taking half of Fragment.
Well, apart from those two teams eliminated on drop, a little bit of a calm down, and this is what I expected in our game number one as well, a very touchy-feely game. I'm not expecting big aggression. I'm expecting everyone to kind of try and find a spot to play and not take any undue risks, to be honest with you, with what is on the line and such a small margin of error for every single one of these teams. Just 5 spots. We're going to keep reiterating that throughout the tournament as well. These teams to make it into playoffs. And just like Dead Inside here, you're going to see that there are teams inside a train yard rotated ahead of them at the moment, so they're probably going to look to hold down this tunnel at the moment. No Watson to kind of guard their backs, so to speak, but as we all know, the Gibraltar and the Pathfinder are going to give them mobility and also the ability to work around that bubble should they get pushed.
Yeah, potentially one of the only, if not one of the few teams still running Pathfinder as well. So we'll see what advantages that can bring them in the mid to late game, whether it will be something that will benefit them or be against them when they're going up against a heavy caustic lobby. Every time we're switching to a different team, there seems to be a caustic in at least 50% of the teams we've seen so far. So we know when it gets to that late game, it is going to be absolute chaos. I mean, the gas is just going to be everywhere. Vision is going to be so difficult. I mean, we've all been in those games, right, where there's just caustics left, right, and center, and it is so hard to just maintain focus. It all becomes a lot about communication, making sure you're sticking with your team, making sure you're hitting those shots, and of course, it can all come down to scopes. Getting that digi-scope as well to ensure you can see through that gas is really going to be important.
Completely agree with you. I think that's going to be valued in this lobby, certainly the digital threat, and I think that also keeping hold of grenades is going to be super important as well, to just make sure that you're going to have ability to do some damage through those barrels and through that ultimate as well, should that be thrown down. But T-Rex, they got short arms, however, they've managed to have long enough arms to climb up here and use that rope and the zip line to get up into one of these carts, one of the strongest areas you can be. Of course, elevation, you can watch all the teams rotating in as well, and plus pretty good armor at this point in the game, and also with the scout in hand means they're going to be able to do some damage. But Lazarus at the moment, they're coming under all sorts of fire, and Shark's going to be taken down by the defensive bombardment here, and it's SOLOQGOATS, I believe, who are doing the damage at the moment. All up to Amaz now to get the res on his teammate, manages to get the Bloodhound back up, Jay Savage. However, it looks like Sharp has been eliminated from the game. They might have to get that banner. It looks like Amaz has decided he's going to fit.
Yeah, without the Gibby being able to provide the cover with the bubble, now it's just about trying to escape, and Savage cannot get out of the shots from Diff, and instead now Amaz may have been able to rescue one, but I feel like he's going to have to leave the two behind and just go for placement points in this game. They were caught out by Gibby bombardment. Whether there was a bubble that was baited out previously, it doesn't really matter. SOLOQGOATS, though, picking up some important KP after they had the KP from the drop as well. So 4 kills on the board for Diff at the moment. He is the kill leader, and this is a good situation for SOLOQGOATS.
Yeah, this is the kind of game you want in your game at number one. You want to be picking up early KP, you want to be winning every fight, and that momentum. And speaking of momentum as well, if you want a team who will thrive off of that, this is going to be the team. Shiv loves killing things, and Shiv is killing things early on, and he's going to be getting loud and certainly proud. They just need to be careful that adrenaline doesn't get the better of them, as we still have a lot of squads still remaining in this lobby. But a great start for them, Dan. And Dead inside the tunnel. To quote Rain Day, not dead inside at the moment, still living, but coming under a little bit of pressure from a team rotating from the fragment side of the map.
And you see that circle, how it is just now heavily around train yard, and you think back to when we saw T-Rex just up, elevated with the Watson, being able to just hold on. They are going to be in a fantastic position for this late game. One of the few teams, I'm sure, that are running Watson, and I'm interested to see how that's going to play out with their composition. And I think it's going to come down to how these lobbies kind of transition out these 6 games, as to whether we see composition changes for people trying to maybe compensate for the vast amount of caustics, or whether people say, okay, well, I'd rather have a bit more aggression, so let's place a Bloodhound. All these different things to consider. But in game 1, it's just about focusing on what you're used to playing, the composition that you're comfortable with, and usually the decision comes down to, should we focus on what we're comfortable with, or should we try to play the lobby? And my advice would always be, focus on what you're good at, rather than thinking about what everyone else is doing.
You see Dead Inside have done enough damage to this team that was behind them to force them on a wider rotate, and that's what you need to do when you're holding down an area. It's not just a case of being there and sitting there. You have to do damage, you have to show presence to force those teams off, and now they know they're going to have a little bit of time to work with, and that team has been cleared off their back. But these big shots coming in from Eni and Anorak with the charge rifle going to crack some shields, and that was the team that was behind Dead Inside trying to make that wider rotation. However, you can see that Eni at the moment just playing the very, very edge of zone here, trying to level up those Evo shields before they make their next shift and then move to where they want to go.
I'm happy to see him change the shields there as well. He was, of course, hitting shots with the charge rifle, with the gold shield, didn't really matter. Instantly let his teammates know that he could increase the shields there by hitting shots with their blues. Exorcism under a little bit of pressure here, having to back off. Caustic versus Caustic though, so it means that this fight is not going to be an easy one for either team. And I wouldn't be surprised if both of them just try and cohabit in this tunnel for now. Unless one of them gets a big amount of pressure, and it is Major Pushes on the other side, and by name, by nature, we know that they do like a good push.
Yeah, they do. They love to get aggressive, and if they do damage, they will try and capitalize on it. The issue for them is that there is a Caustic, like you mentioned, going to be able to get those barrels down, but 9imps is going to be the one playing the Caustic himself, so he's going to push through that gas and not take too much damage and really try and be the aggressor, which is not really what you normally see from a Caustic player. But they're forcing the other team back at the moment. This is what they like to do, and Exorcism, well, they're going to have to fight and hit some shots themselves.
I think Major Pushes is another team that surprises me that they aren't in playoffs. They are a team that I would have expected to be there at this point in time. In a lobby like this, they should be able to get through. They should realistically be able to finish in the top 5 because they have experience. But they just need to find that consistency, ensure they don't fall too far behind, and they try to push in, but some amazing damage coming out here from Exorcism. Both bubbles are popped, and a bubble fight occurs.
Yeah, here is big aggression coming in from Major Pushers, but they've been forced to back down, but having the Caustic, having the Gibraltar gives you that opportunity to reset. And they did manage to get some damage down themselves, so looks like a little bit of a stalemate at the moment, but you can see what the thought process is here for Major Pushers. Like you mentioned, they are not called Major Pushers for no reason. As soon as they do damage, they try and take advantage of it. Unfortunately for them, the push didn't quite work out this time.
I think both teams are just very anxious at the moment as well, knowing full well there are different locations they can be pushed from. They are in a tunnel, they are stuck in a choke point. If one other team decides to join this fight, both of these teams could lose out. So whilst they could just cohabit, they could just stay in this situation, they know that at some point it could punish them if they don't get this fight over and done with. So it's that constant discussion going on in the team. Should we push them? Should we try and wipe this team early? Because if we don't, it could come to bite us in the backside.
Well, you saw where that ring is going to be pulling. And it is going to be pretty much over Train Yard. So a lot of teams are probably going to be eliminated on this next circle because of the fact that Train Yard's one of the most difficult circles to play on World's Edge. Loads of different elevation, but not a huge amount of places to actually play that give you complete cover as a squad. So this fight might go on a little bit longer, and we're going to see another attempt at this push now coming in from Major Pushers. The Jibby Bubble will go down just to give them a little bit more time to work with and a little bit more cover. However, a little bit of damage done by the Caustic, and it's just a constant back and forth at the moment. A little bit like a seesaw in a children's playground, but at the moment both players, both teams weighing exactly the same amount, and they're kind of just stuck in the middle.
Yeah, a seesaw that is probably going to get broken soon if they keep going it this way, and it looks like out of the playground for one of the teams, they decided they wanted to back off ever so slightly as we move across to Eni as they found a little engagement themselves. Is that a Horizon I see on the map?
That's some Horizon.
Black hole had just been thrown down, maybe just to try and keep Eni at bay here.
Yeah, that is a Horizon in the lobby, and I love to see that. As I previously mentioned the last time that we were here, you know, Horizon definitely has some competitive value, in my opinion, as an aggressive legend to be using. And I'm gonna steal something I heard from a man called Noko. And he said the wombo combo is something you can certainly hit with Horizon. You throw that black hole ultimate down, and you throw a grenade in there as well, you can do a huge amount of damage to a team. And speaking of doing a huge amount of damage, Anorak is going to finish off the kill here on Surfraz, and that's going to be KP on the board for Eni.
Yeah, Hexa is still alive, but yeah, Hexa are the one team running Horizon from what we can see. I feel like if Horizon could scan a beacon, then there is no reason why we wouldn't see Horizon played more. I just feel like she is the character that replaces kind of the Crypto or the Pathfinder, the Bloodhound. But you need those characters to scan and get their information. But of course, Horizon isn't necessarily the same style of character. That's why we don't see her having the ability to scan. But I'd love it if she could, so maybe that's going to be my my little subtle request to the developers of Apex Legends. But still, fights occurring. Pog have found themselves just below Train Yard here, and they know there are several teams around and above them. A lot of these teams, Mark, have been able to get into this circle. Still 18 squads. Yes, some of them are weak, but because it has been a circle somewhat centrally, of course it is ever so slightly west, people have been able to find some comfort in traversing the map into this area.
Yeah, interested to see the positioning here of Gambit as well. They're coming under fire, but I'm wondering where that next ring pull is going to be, because if it pulls outside of Train Yard, like we saw previously where we saw Complexity win a game in one of our most recent competitions in North America, you can see all those teams having to rotate out, and Gambit would be in a prime position. However, no, you can see it has pulled out of Train Yard, but Gambit on the opposite side of that, and not only are they on the opposite side of where the ring is pulling, as far as World's Edge is concerned, they're also taking a lot of damage from the Gibraltar defensive bombardment, but they've managed to survive here. They've managed to get their shields back up, but Gambit, they've got some big decisions to make here.
Yeah, just Leo popping the ult with the crypto just to try and do some damage, and then it was bombardment on bombardment. Both teams bubbled early and they tried to get a cheeky knock, but neither were able to find it. And actually one team in the end retreated from that fight, but Gambit do have a long old way to get to that next circle. It's not going to be easy. I've just seen Jay Savage taken down from Lazarus elsewhere. We're down to just 17 squads at this point, so still plenty of players in the lobby. And it looks like Eddie maybe want in on this fight. They see that someone has actually had an engagement. There is a little bit of looting happening, and this is potential KP for Any if they play this correctly.
Yeah, ever so slightly late to the third party though. The armor swaps would have gone down, so the opportunity with those two bubbles going up, there would have been a fight, but as you say, just a few seconds too late, and now they're coming under quite a lot of damage. However, they have managed to get the knock, and maybe they've timed this a little bit better than I gave them credit for. They managed to get the KP on the board, and Any are going to be feeling good about that. Need to get those shields back up, because they've got a long way to go still. As you can see, that circle really pulled pretty hard to the east of Train Yard, now into the open. Going to be finishing below that high ground and on those tracks.
And that was one of the best demonstrations as to why I love the kind of 1 kill per point being added way back when the rules were changed. They know that they're not really going to be in a position to win this game, so instead they play aggressive, they're playing on the edge, they push a team when they realize there is KP available for them. They're being griefed by the teams that are already in Central Circle, but they pick up 3 valuable points for their, well, aggression and really a situation where maybe some other teams may have backed off or not been able to be as successful, but it was just their pure aggression, knowing that they could pick up that points, is why they were able to put them up in the end. And, of course, hitting their shots helped as well. Unfortunate for Gambit that they were third-partied, but Gambit had picked up some KP as well. So both teams who are on the edge still getting KP to work with.
I just want to say, SOLOQGOATS are popping off at the moment. I'm looking at the feed and I keep seeing Shiv, I keep seeing Zippeth, and they are picking up KP for days in this game number 1. But then inside have got themselves a little position in where that next circle is going to be. They've also got the Pathfinder to give them that zip line up to get a little bit more elevation on this team below them. But from 17 teams down to 14, and it wouldn't surprise me to see that number drop even more. But Faitu is going to be dropping. So is Sajama, and now all of a sudden, Stanny is going to be the last player alive here. And under pressure, the push is coming in as well. He's not going to be long for this world. Has to go into the void, but I think it's just going to be delaying the inevitable here. Is he able to get away around this corner to survive just a few seconds longer? It seems like he is. So that little bit of movement might have gotten him a few extra placement points.
Yeah, he was able to escape past a couple of teams that were fighting. Here's Any yet again, who have been able to get inside this circle, are doing some damage to a lot of these teams. But now, Any is actually having to go into the void himself just to try and survive. Does find a loot box and might be able to get an armor swap if he's lucky, and it looks like they have been able to reset. But chaos unfolding, Shiv still popping off. SOLOQGOATS are doing some real damage elsewhere.
Yeah, Pog coming under a little bit of damage themselves though, trying to get that res off. There's a caustic barrel above their head as well that's going to be knocked down by the teammate there, so good communication. They're having to find themselves a cheeky little corner, but they are center zone at the moment, so if they can hold this position down, they might be in position to win our game number 1 here. But Any still doing work, have a team right next to them though, and they're going to have to engage here as they move up on that circle.
Yeah, one of our EMEA teams who are a little bit more unpredictable, maybe people don't know how they're going to play, have showed some aggression in the late game, but it looks like it's all going to come down to whether he can get the battery off. He does get the bat off, now can play it safe, gets the bubble down, and should be able to get the res because the bombardments come through, and Any will stay alive. Anorak doing a fantastic job as the Gibby, but now it's all about hitting these shots. Tries to throw down the Arc Star, unfortunately goes down because of the hitbox. But Eddie, from Team Eddie, now he's alive, now he's escaping. They're just not going down.
And that one play there from the Gibraltar has managed to get them 2 placements in this first lobby. Make that 3 now, because they were on 7 or 8 squads left, and now we're down to just 5. And he's found himself a little spot to play as well, so before you know it, this really could be a game for Eni to put up some big points on the board. That little play from the Gibraltar, getting the bubble down, getting away, getting that res can really change the complexion of things. But once again, looking at the kill feed, and it's SOLOQGOATS. I'm seeing Shiv, I'm seeing Diff, but I'm also seeing some beautiful shots with the R99 coming in from Lagger.
Yeah, 4 left, and SOLOQGOATS, they're the kill leaders at the moment, and they're into the top 4. We knew that they would have a fantastic chance in this lobby because they're very good at playing in a matchmaking environment when things get thrown against them that is a little bit more unpredictable. And look at the high ground that they have, but unfortunately, it's not going to be in the next circle. So Diff just going to have a little dance around. Maybe he was thinking about going for some sort of kidnap, but instead now just getting a little bit of vision on the teams below. Defensive bombardment does come out from the Gibby, and SOLOQGOATS are in a good spot to potentially win this game.
Yeah, the bubble's been used up as well by the team below them, so they're going to have the opportunity maybe to get some shots down from this aerial position, but you can see why caustic teams are so hard to push. You cannot drop onto that team. And now we see Eni going to be eliminated into that top 3. We're down to our last 2 now. The drop is going to finally come in from SOLOQGOATS. They get 2, they get 3, and SOLOQGOATS are going to show that they've got some teamwork as a 3 as well.